Moving on to the Civil War. This is early. This might be the new rivalry week in college football now that we got all these teams in different conferences. But Oregon at Oregon State. Oregon State is getting 16.5 points at home. And what I've seen out of the Oregon Ducks in the first 2 weeks, only winning by 10 to the Idaho Vandals, who are a very, very solid FCS school. But then you go to Boise State, who's probably one of the leaders for the Group of 5 playoff spot this year. A lot of teams expect them to be in that mix. But still, I don't feel like, you got to combine 13 points and wins there against two teams that you were heavily, heavily favored in these games. I feel like Oregon's got all kinds of problems here. And I feel like in a game like this, a rivalry game that always seems to play close in my mind, 16.5 feels like a lot of points to give the Beavers here, Bob.
Yeah, I'm hoping it climbs to 17 or higher, because that would be a really nice number to get. But this is a rivalry game, always has been. It's particularly big for Oregon State because there is no longer a Pac-12 other than they in Washington State. So this is their one shot, and it's an early shot at Oregon. And the issues with Oregon were predictable. Two things. One, Oregon's not an elite talent team. They're very good, but they're not an elite talent. All this hype about, like, if you look it up, let's see where is Oregon? So on the composite ratings, think about all the things you've heard from people all year about where is Oregon. That's interesting. So we'll keep going. Try this again. So if you go to like 24/7's composite ratings, I see what I've done. And you start off with teams like Oregon's not in the top 5. Oregon's below. How many people have pointed out that Oregon has less talent than Clemson from a recruiting ranking perspective? Right.
Right.
A good team, but not exactly a super elite team. Now, Oregon State, talent-wise, always just average. So from a talent rating perspective, the line should be 14. So you're getting some value. You're really getting value if you get over that key number of 17. But Oregon State's playing at home. It's clearly going to be regional TV. I don't know if it's going to be national TV or not, but it's definitely going to be regional. It'll be available nationwide.
Yeah.
The Oregon State, solid little team, went into San Diego State, took care of business, solid defensively, want to run the ball. The Oregon last week showed problems. That's Boise State. Boise State can't throw the ball very well. They have the best running back in college football, a guy a lot of people probably haven't heard of unless you really deeply follow college football, but could be so good he could be a first-round draft pick, which is rare for running backs in the modern NFL.
That guy is good.
Genti is a different animal, and they haven't even unleashed him in the passing game, and he's very good actually as a receiver out of the backfield. So this will be another chance for him to shine. So the Oregon State crowd is going to be nuts. This is the opportunity to play their former Pac-12 rival early in the season. It matters more to Oregon State than Oregon, this game, because of how it shapes up, because of the conference switch. And the issue with Oregon, aside from there being a very good but not super elite talent team, not even in the top 5 in consensus recruiting rankings talent-wise, good, but not Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, is twofold. One is Bo Nix was underappreciated last year. Like, if you watch the film on him last year, he had fully developed. He was hitting. There's a reason why Sean Payton liked him so much. He was making extraordinary deep. He was their deep passing offense. Was Bo Nix. His accuracy was uncanny on deep passes. His receivers actually let him down, and Troy Franklin was explosive. They don't have that this year. If you've watched Dylan Gabriel over the years, can he throw a deep ball? Yes, but it's not like a Bo Nix deep ball. It's a deep ball that mostly works against subpar competition. Now, Oregon State doesn't necessarily have elite defense. It's good, but not an elite defensive talent. But Boise has a terrible secondary, and Oregon couldn't exploit it consistently down the field. Idaho is an atrocious secondary. They couldn't exploit it consistently down the field. So the other problem is that they're running back. So contrary to conventional wisdom, there was a major step down at quarterback. Just ask, why was Oklahoma so eager to go to, Arnold's highly touted, but why were they so eager to go to their backup rather than pay Gabriel? Right? Gabriel's a solid college quarterback who in the right system, like a Heupel type system, can do well. He'll be very accurate in short to medium passes, but he's not as explosive as Nix was. And the offensive line also isn't nearly as dominant as they've made it out to be. They've struggled in back-to-back weeks against very subpar competition. So all this lines up to me. It'll be the Oregon State or pass for me.
That's fair. I think I can't fathom taking or giving more than 16.5 points there in a rivalry game that I always seem to play pretty close, especially when I've seen Oregon look so rough early on in this thing against teams that I felt like they should have blown the doors off against. So for me, 16.5 feels like a whole lot of points to be given Oregon State in that game, especially when they're going to be playing in Corvallis.
And just think of it. Last week, they're favored by they finished at 19 at home against Boise.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State's a more talented team than Boise, and this one's on the road, and it's a rivalry.
Right.
So it's like this line doesn't make sense.
I wound up taking Boise State plus 10.5 at plus 175 last week. I just felt like that line was far too big, and seeing it drive down right before kickoff, it just felt funny. And it felt like a game that the Broncos were going to be in, and they definitely were. They had every chance to win that thing.
Oh, Oregon had for those people that don't know, Oregon had 2 returns for touchdowns.
Yeah,
their offense didn't generate 37 points. Their offense generated like 23 points.
Yeah, and not a game where a team like that with that much talent is supposed to be getting saved by special teams touchdowns. So definitely something you got. I think you got some pause for concern there if you're an Oregon fan.